thank you everybody for coming today. And Stacy, I'm very excited to have a chat with you about your book that has come out that we need to do a little bit of celebrating because it has won 2 awards now.
Yes,
It
thank you.
has won the 2026 Independent Press Award for True Crime, and it has won the 2026 Feather Quill Book Award for Memoir and Bio category. That's pretty incredible. I mean, it's your first book out. So, how does that feel?
Um, Incredible, exciting, scary, all at the same time. So
Oh,
just
yeah.
truly, truly blessed. It's been a journey. So thank you.
That's
Thank you
it's.
for
I'm
having me.
just so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Okay, before we get into the book, tell us how you're feeling at this moment in time.
Just very excited about life, what is in store. Over the past 8 years or so, just lots have come forward. I've worked really hard and processed a lot of trauma. So excited to sit here today and to talk about my journey, my path, the different things that I've learned along the way, and hopefully this talk will reach whoever it needs to reach. And if somebody can just take one little tidbit away from this, a skill maybe to add into their toolbox to help them on their journey, then that would just be incredible.
That's awesome. So, um, I know that you've done a lot of work for the past few years. And you're going to tell us a little bit more about like childhood and stuff before that. But you've done a lot of inner healing work for the past few years in a kind of intensive way. How do you see, or how is it talking about your story or your journey now compared to before you started your healing journey?
For me, I wrote this down because I'm terribly nervous. I used to look at life through a distorted lens of pain, anguish, and despair. Joy was fleeting, and when I would feel happy or smile for a moment, then I would feel guilty for smiling, or worse, would then think, I wish my mom was here to share this moment with me. My whole life has been affected and colored by deep, deep grief. But at this stage in my life, I was fortunate enough to have my faith, and I knew that one day I would see my mom again in heaven. And I have learned all of these different skills along the way, and I'm here to talk about those today.
That's wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to explore a little bit about your world um, before and after you lost your mom. So, share with us a little bit about your life before she was taken.
It was idyllic. We were an intact family. We were a family of four. My parents had both sides of their grandparents, so they were able to take trips as couples with other couples, enjoy that time. We loved hanging out with our grandparents. One's grandma lived 20 minutes from the house, so if they needed date nights, they could do that. The other grandparents lived about 45 minutes away. We did lots of family trips. We had a cabin the family has a cabin in West Yellowstone. So we would go skiing and fishing and camping, you name it, we did that. So we really had an incredible life. My mom had so much zest for life and joy for life that all of the holidays, both sides of the families were at our house. She loved to cook and to bake, and East, all of the holidays were at our house. So it was just this incredible life. We lived on a cul-de-sac. We played in the street with all of the neighbors. It was just um, very, very wonderful.
Very all American, it sounds.
Yeah.
It sounds like, and you have a younger brother,
I do.
right?
I
So
do.
it's the two of you.
Yes, he's
Now,
6 years.
what was your faith like in that family unit? So what were you introduced to?
Well, we were very lucky that my dad's family was Catholic. We're Christians. My dad's family's Catholic. My mom's family is Protestant. So I would go to church with my Nana, my dad's mom. And I remember at a very young age of around 7 or 8 years old, trying to wrap my head around Catholicism and having a human person be the in between or the go between in my relationship with God. And so it was in those moments that I really was shaping, because I would tell my Nana, I feel like my prayers are answered. I have a direct connection with God. If I am, before I would go to bed at night, I would lay in bed and say my prayers. Um, I was taught by my dad, who was Catholic when I was really little. You're supposed to get on your knees and you kind of bend over the bed and you say your prayers. That didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
I would lay in bed and I would say my prayers, and I would thank God for the life that we have and my baby brother and our animals and this life at 7 and 8 years old. And so it was this beautiful thing that my Nana could hear what I was saying, but kind of explain to her what why the priest was needed and all of that.
Hmm.
It didn't resonate with me. On my mom's side, they're Protestant. So when we would go and stay with them on the weekends, I would then go to a Methodist church with my mom's mom. But on the rare occasion, which was wonderful, my grandpa Jake would go ahead and go golf, and they would let me choose. Either I could go ahead and go to church with my grandmother, which was a 2.5 hour thing because it was all of these different things, the classes before and the sermon and all that. Or I could go outside, be in the sunshine, golf, and go get a donut after. I'm doing that. So
Me
so that was
too.
so that was my experience when I was young. But it was this beautiful relationship that I had with my Nana, in that it was very accepting, in that I had all of these questions and she let me kind of define my Christianity, my religion, my beliefs, how I was defining them. But I was exposed to this, which was
Yeah.
nice.
So would you say when you were younger there was a blend of religion with spirituality that you kind of formed on your own?
Very much,
Or okay. All
very
right.
much
That's pretty
so.
cool. Okay.
And
Go for it.
and then when I lost my mom when I was 12 years old, then that opens me up to a totally different, spiritual side. Because even though I knew that she was no longer walking this earth, I could still feel her presence. So it
Hmm.
was incredible.
So when after losing your mom, how did it affect your belief or knowing of spiritual and religion? Like, what did you question some of that? Was there, did anything get shaked up a little bit for you, or was it more solid of a belief after your mom was gone?
I think it was a more solid of a belief. I know that other family, I know that sometimes people question God, might have moments of anger. That's just not my nature, and that wasn't who I was. I understood there was something bigger going on here, and that my soul needed to learn some lessons in this life. And it was my job to figure out what God was trying to teach me, what my soul was trying to learn, and this journey. So
Oh,
it
wow.
solidified my connection more with God. Um, in that I believe that God, for me, this works for me, that God is within us.
Yeah. I love that the trauma that you went through, both with childhood and with your mom being taken away, you didn't shut off. Like you didn't close down. Nothing blocked up. Your beliefs stayed. So what do you credit that to?
I
How does, yeah,
think
so,
a good
yeah.
foundation. I think just a really good, strong foundation, and this knowing that I think that children have when they're much younger. Um, children are clear. They have a direct pipeline to, in my belief,
Yeah.
children are clear. They have a direct pipeline with God. And as we age and we get older, we have all of these possibly negative experiences. Um, and so we kind of shut that off a little bit, and children are a little bit more open to it.
Yeah, what I love though with your journey is that, not that I love your journey, but what I find really neat is that I do agree with you, children are more open and they have that connection. But not all children can stay in that knowing. A lot of us just immediately shut it down and there's no awareness. There is no connection. That is totally not there. What I love is yours stayed. And what would you attribute that to? Like, how does that, that's just so cool. Like, do you think it's the,
I don't know. I never thought about it.
yeah.
I mean, these questions were not on the script.
I just love it. It's very interesting because you just
I
have this innate knowing that didn't get shook.
no.
And you went, and as people read your book, they will understand what you did go through.
Yeah.
And I, I look at it from my eyes as somebody who's gone through the childhood trauma. I'm amazed that it didn't shut down. And somehow you just have this knowing, which is just amazing. And it's beautiful. And I think it's a
Well,
testament to who you are.
well, thank you. For me, and people listening to this are going to laugh. I don't know much about the Bible, but for me, I got the essence, and I'm going to get this all wrong, so I'm sorry. But there's a proverb, I'm not even sure, a psalm somewhere, I don't know, that when I wanted to get connected when I was younger with my mom, before I worked with you and got all the skills that you helped me so I can help connect her with her in a different way, I used to go to the beach, and there's a proverb or a psalm. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I'm totally off. Where Jesus is, there's two sets of footprints walking in the sand, and for me, there's this person because I've had a life filled with grief and despair and so it's Jesus walking along with this person, and um then how the saying goes is that it goes to one set of footprints, and that person then cries out to Lord God, where were you? You abandoned me. I never felt that. And so what is said next really just resonated with me. I found this when I was like 15 or 16, heard this story. And Jesus said, I didn't abandon you. I picked you up and I was carrying you. It is those types of things that I learned throughout my life, um, that resonated with. For me, I never felt abandoned. I felt like I had a good foundation in that I was able to ask questions and they were heard, not necessarily answered by my Nana, but just more inquisitive, having me shape and form that. So then when this traumatic thing happened to me, our family, I didn't feel like God had abandoned. I felt like it was my job. I feel like God only gives us what we can handle. And so I would say, well, God, you think I can handle this? All right. I feel really weak. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I've got this level of grief that I don't know what to do with. But if you think I have the strength and the resiliency to get through this, okay, you know more than I do. So that's just kind of always been my point of view.
I like that. I like that.
So,
Well, hey, it's your journey. Nobody knows but you, honey. Right?
yeah,
I find I've never thought about that with all our conversations. It never dawned on me. Wait a second. How did one keep it and one shut it down? But it's just our path, right? Your path was supposed to be that way, and my path was my way. But it never clicked with all our conversations. That has never clicked until this moment, which is interesting.
and so this is totally going to take a deviation from the question.
Whatever.
My maiden name is Andrade. And as you know, I've come to Portugal now a handful of times. And it's been this incredible healing journey to go where my ancestors are from. And it's incredible to meet people that are familiar with the Andrade family and who they are. And they were the protectors of the Holy Grail, eons ago. So it is so I do believe that our soul, my soul is must be carrying some of that to have that knowing is the only thing that,
Mhm.
and plus I was given a space from my Nana to ask these questions and have that be okay.
So that Nana was very important in your
Oh, very much
life
so.
because
Yes.
if you're comfortable sharing a little bit, there wasn't room or space for grief in your father's home with your stepmother. There was not space there for you to be able to process and do all that.
That is correct. When I lost my mom at 12, he moved my stepmonster in around 13, and then I left my father's house at 15. So there's about a 2.5 year period where there is no place to speak of my mom, grieve my mom, ask questions about my mom. In the book, I go in the first time I find out how my mom is missing. I find out through the media. I mean, it was like she never existed. Um,
Mm.
and it was devastating because my mom and I were very, very close. We would take wonderful trips together. We would go horseback riding together. We did a lot of things together. She was an amazing mom. So then to have that be gone immediately overnight was measurable. The pain, the anguish,
Mm.
the grief, the despair. She was walking this earth one day and gone the next.
Gone the next day. I have a question that's not on our list again. It's coming up around your Nana. So, what would you believe that your Nana and you have an agreement before you both came into human form that she was to be your grandmother during this time for whatever lessons were on your way?
I, I believe, for me, I believe in soul agreement. I think that our souls have lessons that they need to learn, and we don't necessarily we don't necessarily sign our soul signs up for how that lesson is taught to the soul, but there are lessons that the soul needs to learn. And so, yes, I learned a lot looking back now. And I have four children of my own, and as a child, I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And then when my oldest daughter turned 12, I remember looking at her going, I was this age with this much knowledge when I lost her. I mean, it was um, an incredible journey with my mom and the dumping of lessons of unconditional love and joy. Um, the first 12 years of
Mm. Um, I'm going to ask you to kind of move your computer closer. The audio's going, it's hard to hear. I don't know if it's me or you, but I'm going to
so
make you do something because I think it's probably me, but whatever.
whatever.
Okay, so um, grief changes us in many ways. At the time, in your younger years, before, through the child's eyes, do you know that you were grieving? Did you know the word of grief, or was that something that you became aware of later in adulthood?
It's something that I became aware of later in adulthood. I knew the feeling, but I didn't have the word to describe it. When I was able to reconnect after I left my father's home and reconnect with my mother's side of the family, it was bittersweet in that I looked just like my mom. I'm sure I acted just like my mom because I was a girl. And so I'm sure, because I went to go live with my maternal grandparents, and so I'm sure it was a wonderful gift, but also a very difficult gift at the same time, in that they were dealing with their own grief and pain. And it wasn't until early adulthood and I went to college and studied psychology with an emphasis in child development, and kind of started peeling back that onion and learning what all of those feelings that I was feeling, and was able to give them names, give them labels, and then was finding different avenues to help process that grief. But it kind of started when I lived with my grandparents. I kept up with the horseback riding because that
Mhm.
connected me to my mom. It was in Santa Cruz, California. So I would go to the beach, which is where I would meditate. Didn't know that that's what it was at that time because I was only 15 and then 16. So I would meditate and feel her presence there. So I was connecting with her, and then also found a counselor and processed a lot of trauma that a 16-year-old could process then at that time. But that's kind of when I started processing, but didn't really get very many tools because this was, the 80s, and the
Yeah,
field has evolved into this incredible place.
right. Why don't we, if you're comfortable, start talking about your healing journey? So at 16, you saw a counselor and started doing some work. What was the moment that made you say, there's a bigger thing here and I need to start looking at this in a real manner? Like, what was the catalyst that happened? If you're comfortable sharing, like,
I'm not understanding the question.
so what was there a moment that made you say, okay, this is affecting me. What I went through is affecting me in my adult life. I need to start looking at this. I need to start going in and doing the work. Was there anything that just said, pay attention now? Because,
Well, I think, oh, I go into the book a little bit about it. It seemed like when I turned 19, they so my mom was murdered by her husband of 2 months when I was 12. We had a nationwide manhunt looking for him. We ended up finally finding him 2.5 years, almost 3 years later. We went through the state of California. He was in Connecticut, extraditing him back to the state of California. That took all of this time. So, meanwhile, I was still a minor during that time. So nothing was required of me. Then I lost my Nana at about 18 and a half, almost 19. And then at 19, they started the trial for my mother. And so then I was subpoenaed to go ahead and testify on my mother's trial. So it was at that time, it was this whirlwind of emotion that was very, very overwhelming. And I knew that I did not have the tools that I needed to handle what was going on. I was at that time in college studying psychology, still trying to figure out what I wanted, but I felt like, God had given me all of this for a reason. And so I was figuring out that my path and my journey is if I could make sense of all of this through me learning, all that I can to help process the grief, to help process all of this gunk, and then get a bag of tools to then share that with other people. And if I could help just one person in this lifetime, then it would all,
yeah.
make sense.
Okay, so after the therapy, you were introduced to EMDR, if I remember correctly. Can
Yes,
you,
yes.
yeah, will you share your, if you can share your journey from EMDR until the moment the book just flew out of you?
EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a process of traumatic memories events through a bilateral stimulation. And what it is you go and you see a counselor, and you hold two little things like quarters, and they vibrate. And it's a rewiring of the traumatic event through the rewiring of the eyes. And with that, you still have the memories, but you no longer can feel that heightened, that stressful moment.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most traumatic memories I can talk about it now is the last day that I saw my mom. Up until finding EMDR, I could not talk about my last moments of saying goodbye to my mom without crying, without getting emotional. My mom was dropping us off at our dad's house. She was hugging me and whispering in my ear, Stacy, say something, say something. But I was beyond. I could not believe that my mom was leaving. I couldn't believe that she was moving to South Carolina, that she was leaving me with our dad and my baby brother, that she was leaving us. It was August. She was to come back at Christmas time for us after she got all settled and everything came together. I've never seen my father cry my whole entire life. They were divorced. Was beside himself. He was crying. My mother was crying. My baby brother was crying. Everybody was crying, but I was beyond crying. And that was it. And I didn't even get to say goodbye to her because I couldn't even say anything. And then she left. So the EMDR really helped me in processing all of that so that I could move through that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Then what was introduced to you after EMDR?
So I I went to counseling to find EMDR and the meditation and the journaling, but that was what I was comfortable with because it was all cerebral. But when you reached out to me 6 or 7 years ago and I started working with you, I found mindfulness, walking meditation, breath work, journaling at a deeper level, Reiki on steroids with Luis, NLP. I worked with Janice, who is an LCSW, and we did a lot of visualization and processing the trauma. And working with you, then I learned to connect with my mom, and you helped teach me how to open up to her and her presence, her essence through painting and music therapy. And with that, then it opened up this level of gratitude and more compassion for myself. That was just a few things that helped. It has been an incredible journey of healing. The deep seated grief in me through all of this, the resiliency kept coming up. I had learned about this concept in college in the early 90s. The questions we had then are now answered in the present day. And this is commonplace knowledge now. It wasn't then. These were questions that we were asking. It is
Mm-hmm.
the resiliency that we can live a full life. The beautiful thing about resiliency is that it can be taught. And how you can teach this is if you look and you have laughter with a friend as you're walking down the street and you smile to a stranger, you pet a dog or a cat, you chat with the barista or you chat with the person at the grocery store. All of these human actions release the love hormone oxytocin within us. Connection is so important to the human experience. These micro moments of connection strengthen our resiliency by magnifying trust and increasing our ability to manage our own emotions. In doing these small random acts of kindness within our community, it ends up being a give and take of the love hormone. In addition, this exchange, we now know that in addition to this exchange, we now know that love is contagious. And have when you're walking down the street, have you ever just looked into somebody's eyes and smiled genuinely? Usually 9 times out of 10, you're going to have that positive exchange. They will give you eye contact and look at you also. So after, in the beginning, I had to heal and work through some of this stuff, and the EMDR was the beginning of that. But then working with you and doing some light work and all of that, then this whole other level of healing and processing the grief and the trauma has really brought so much joy and light to my life in a way that's immeasurable. It has really, really helped.
Is there a way to describe what you felt? In my head, this is how your writing happened, and then you have to tell me how it really is for you. Okay, so in my head, I it's You did a wonderful 7, 8 days of lot of work, lot of going in, healing, accepting, and everything. And then when you went off to the plane and you landed, it was like everything just came out. And then you're like, I wrote the book. So, tell us about what that experience is, because that's gotta feel so amazing to go from being restricted to, I mean, it just all came out. Like it was like a waterfall, really.
It
Like,
was an incredible process, an incredible journey. As you know, as everybody that's close to me knows, that I have been trying to write this for years, if not a decade. And I just felt like the cliche, a writer's block. I would sit down, I would journal, it wouldn't come together, it didn't make sense. It just wasn't there. You have this wonderful retreat, which I highly recommend. And I went and did it. And when I came home, got my house together, said my hellos to my kids, my grandbabies, my husband, my dogs, all of that stuff, within 2 to 3 days, it was like a tap on my shoulder, like, okay, it's right here, it's right here. And I'm like, okay, I just got home. I've got things to do. I've got to get my house, I've got to show up for my kids and my grandbabies. It's like, no, 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 no. And so then I just created a space, a physical space, because you had created an emotional space that was very available and a connected space with my mom. And I sat down and there it was. And then had like 10 days later, I had a conversation with you, might have been 7 days later. I'm like, it's done. You're like, oh, I've got an editor. And so then I had, as God would have it, talk to her. She's like, I'll love to take your project. And literally, from the day I started writing, 30 days later, it was for sale on Amazon and also Books a Million and also Target, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles. It was available. And it was like, phew, I could breathe. Everybody that knows me, I like to go to bed at 9 o'clock, 9:30. I'm a morning person. I'm up between 4:30 and 5 in the morning. I was working on 2 to 4 hours of sleep and I was energized. It was just this incredible cathartic experience that I don't know how to explain.
hard to put words to, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
it's incredible.
Yeah. What would you like to tell little Stacy, 12-year-old Stacy today from your eyes now? What would you like to tell her?
Breathe. Learn to breathe. It,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be all right. It's going to be
Yeah.
okay. It's all a process. So
Yeah.
I do wish that I would have learned about mindfulness earlier in life. I wished I would have learned about breath work earlier in life. Those little things that I've learned about in the last decade, those are wonderful skills. When I have my grandchildren over, and I got this from you, we do some breath work and then we paint. And then my daughter, when the children have come home, she's like, "What are you doing?" And I just laugh. I said, "We're just learning breath work and we're painting." And there's this level of expression that I wished I would have known for little Stacy. And then I could have passed that on to my children. But I am passing it on to my grandchildren. I just think
Yeah.
that just learning to hug ourselves, just to
Yeah.
love ourselves. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's all right. So
It's
God's wisdom.
pretty incredible. It's very inspiring to hear your journey this time around. um, can you tell everybody where they can get your book, and then we'll open it up if anybody has questions for you, if you're comfortable with that.
Oh my goodness. The book I have,
Oh, you also have a couple
yeah,
things. So
yes,
yeah.
Until She's Found. It's available at Amazon. It's available Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Target, Walmart, all of those places. And then also, I created a mindfulness journal. We're all so busy. I don't know about y'all, but I'm lucky if I can find 10 minutes in my day to meditate and to then go ahead and sit down and journal. So what I created was a minute of mindfulness journal.
That's
And
so pretty.
inside is just a little guided excerpt to how, and in the beginning it explains, for me, I like the 4 count. So you breathe in to the count of 4, you hold it to the count of 4, and then exhale to the count of 4. And as you breathe in, there's a subtle thing for you to think about. And then as you exhale, another subtle thing to think about to just release all of that tension. You do that 4 times and see what comes to mind. If nothing comes to mind, where do you feel the breath? Where do you feel, is there any tension? What's going on in your body? So maybe you write about that. It's called seasons because we are so busy. We need to be more forgiving and loving and gentle with ourselves. I don't have time to sit down and do this every single day, but I do have time in a season, a springtime, to go ahead and do it. Not 2, maybe 3 times a week. So there's 10 to 20 entries in each season. It's okay if they don't all get filled out. You just keep it moving and go on to the next. So it's
I
just,
love that.
I'm trying to create things that I wanted to use that I had not found in the marketplace. So the first breath work will be learning to smile, learning to just hug ourselves. The second part will be a calmness. So when you breathe in, there will be a calmness, and when you exhale, hopefully you'll feel calm. The next is one that I really struggle with to this day. I always circle back, is learning how to let it go. So we
Oh, I didn't know that was an issue.
so you breathe in, hold it, and then just let it go. Because aren't we all our biggest critics? But we're
Yeah,
all doing the best that we can with what we've got at this time. So
that's
let's
beautiful.
let it go. And then for me, always, I find so much comfort and yumminess in thankfulness. So and please go to nancyjoefoundation.org. We've got a website. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We've got
Awesome. I'll make sure that your links are in the community group over there for that. Now let's open up.
I wanted, you
Yeah,
had a,
go for it.
a closing statement. So you were going to
Oh
ask
yeah.
me, what do I hope readers feel when they sit with my book? I'm hoping that they will feel a range of emotions: hope, resiliency, love, strength, perseverance. And also, they will probably feel maybe that desperation, that hopelessness, that fear, and that grief. But hopefully, by the end of the book, they will see that we prevail. We don't have answers. My mom's body is still missing to this day, but at least we constantly get up every single morning. We persevere through it. We're going to find her. And I would like to leave the listener with this. My favorite quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, I'm sorry if I say his name wrong. He is the father of the mindfulness movement. His quote that I read somewhere a few years ago has stuck with me, and it is my personal mantra. Our own life has to be our mission. That is his quote, and that means something so much to me. So for me, I choose for mine to be one of strength, resiliency, compassion, and unconditional love for others. Thank you for listening, and please remember you are not alone, and please know that. God bless.
Oh, I love it. Good job, Stacy.
Thank you.